Greetings! It is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on the bloodlines and clans of Vampire the Masquerade. So today I'm actually bringing you both bloodlines of the Brujah, or Bruja, however which way you want to pronounce that name. But one bloodline we know much more about than the other, so I felt it was necessary to combine the two of them. But let's start with the first one, the smaller of the two, the Osebo. So the Osebo are one of the legacies of Laibon. Laibon is basically the total group of all African vampires. Each of them has a legacy which appears to be seems to be a bloodline descending from a clan of vampires. So effectively, each one of them matches with these clans. This is the one that matches with the Brujah. They have the disciplines of auspex, celerity, and potence. They are named for the famous lepers of West Ashanti legend. Now they have proud traditions that they defend to the end, but depend on the other legacies to direct them. If they are undirected, they oftentimes will indulge in the beast, and slaughter and destruction will follow them. When they embrace, they tend to embrace from those of the salt of the earth, and they're known to have a weakness of frenzying, often just like the parent clan of Brujah. Now, why don't we talk about the other bloodline, though? The one that probably most of us are here to talk about. True Brujah. So the True Brujah claim they're descendants of the clan's original antediluvian diablerized by Trolli, the one that the normal Brujah are said to be descended from. They have the disciplines of potence, presence, and temporis, and are known for their cool, detracted demeanor. Long after the diablerization of the true founder Isles, they have oftentimes hid within the other Brujah, planning against them and biding their times for the times they can basically destabilize and turn these interlopers against themselves. They are known for their difficulty in summoning forth emotions, and the fact that the majority of them are aligned with the true Black Hand, though there are some which are said to be devout Camarilla. Now in ancient days, their history splits in different ways. One history says that it was during the Second City, when Trolli diablerized the original founder Isles, that they went into hiding within those final days of the Second City, as the other clans supported this new usurper as the new clan, the new true clan Brujah, and survived beyond that. Other rumors and stories said that perhaps they originated much farther along, in Carthage, when in the downfall of the city, many elders found their destruction, and perhaps during some of this point in time, this split occurred, which caused their founding. Regardless of the actual origin of them, there's this level of vengeance that is directing them, that pushes them forth. Now, during the Dark Ages, we see that there was only 10 members of this bloodline. This was only at the start of the Dark Ages. With the advent of universities and more learning, they came out of hiding and began to embrace more members, spread their numbers. They have always had a penchant for learning and not only developing body, but mind, developing both together. They did see some interest in what was happening to Salubre, but did not act. And in the War of the Princes, they took advantage of that to strike some blows against the Brujah. The major event, though, came when the True Black Hand's western branch, the western branch of the tal'mahe'ra, approached them and invited them to join them. They promised them vengeance, so they joined. Now, in the Victorian age, we saw their influence within the True Black Hand rise, and they have an intrinsic connection to them. We also saw many members infiltrate both the Sabbat and the Camarilla to spread their influence. When it came to modern knights, the True Brujah were almost synonymous with the True Black Hand, that both of them had this very interwoven origin. This was actually quite unfortunate for them, though. When the city of Enoch, the headquarters of the True Black Hand, fell within the Shadowlands and was destroyed, majority of the True Brujah were in fact lost. Many of the remaining members have now turned and joined up with the followers of Set, united with them as allies. The clan is all about respect. You earn respect by causing damage to the false Brujah, by winning debates, and by learning deeper aspects of information. They have this interesting juxtaposition that they believe in maximizing the abilities of their bodies, but also maximizing the abilities of the mind at the same time. The body is easy to train to its maximum potential, but the mind is more difficult. This oftentimes requires them to dive into countless different subjects and master them in order to find this perfection that reaches both then mind and body. They wish to master all the crafts they've touched themselves into. None can find an enemy more relentless than a true Brujah, or an ally more resourceful than one, too. They oftentimes look to vampires that end up slaughtering each other in amongst groups and support this, push this forward, the destruction of these others. Oftentimes this, of course, is a result of the Brujah that they do hate. But the fact is they have a resentment versus many other vampires that pushes this idealism of allowing them to slaughter each other forward. Now the thing about them, though, is they do terrible when it comes to a crisis. They don't know how to react to it. They don't understand or grasp emotions the same way that other vampires do. So when something of extreme emotional distress happens, they don't know how to react. And even after this action is done, the results of it can be very devastating to them. It oftentimes will result in arguments in amongst the members, which can oftentimes result in even blows in between them. So you can see they do have this disadvantage in dealing with problems that causes a lot of problems in amongst their society. Now, in contrast to most of the vampires who joined the True Black Hand, they did out of vengeance. Not any thought pattern about Gehenna and the antediluvians. Not out of fear. It was, in fact, logical for them to join. The fact is, they see the majority of other vampires as wicked. Their species is wicked. And the more deaths of the wicked vampires that they can cause before Gehenna arrives, before the antediluvians wake up again, the better. Because they see the fact is, when they arrive, they're going to eliminate the wicked. But if most of them are gone, they can almost lessen or control the death and slaughter and destruction that will result from Gehenna. So, the more the wicked die, the more their apocalypse, Gehenna, will be survivable for them in particular. For they are most important in this case. Now, when they like to embrace people that are incredible thinkers and gifted individuals. The brightest, the bravest. This often means they look to those that have a lot of experience and have a huge education, but there can be exceptions of those that are exceptional and have reached these higher levels at even a younger age. They have embraced from all cultures of the world. Now, they have a unique discipline of temporis, which grants them limited control over time itself. There's open debate as to whether temporis was the original discipline in which celerity was based upon, or celerity was a lesser version of what would become temporis, and perhaps the current bloodline of Brujah, the bloodline of Brujah that are referred to as the false bloodline by them, are the ones that chose not to go farther along this training, and then the lesser effects stuck with the rest of their bloodline down the line. It's really hard to say the exact origin, but the two of them do seem intrinsically linked. Now, true Brujah are cold, detached, emotionalist. They have problems dealing with their emotions, and this directly affects their clan weakness. They have a harder time regaining humanity as any other vampire, twice the difficulty. This reflects itself in game terms, as it costs them double the experience points to regain a point of humanity or a point on the path of enlightenment. They rarely show any kind of emotion, and when they do, it is far less than any other would for the same circumstance. Now, True Brujah are scholars through and through. that organize effectively two large meetings of them that they all predetermine ahead of time, that they get together and meet. At these meetings, they have a majority of discussions on a vast variety of topics that they've perhaps been studying, but this also does include discussing the atrocities and terribleness of the false Brujah, oftentimes arguing or debating or ranting about the terrible things they've been doing. They strongly believe in solidarity and can easily call upon each other in times of need to assist each other on various things. They are ready to come to each other's aid. They also believe in the idealism of a university, of a place of learning and developing oneself, both body, mind, spirit probably a little bit too in there. And so they oftentimes support universities the best that they can. The fact is that universities are the ideal location for them to embrace the type of people they wish to bring into their clan. And this, of course, is both from students and teachers they would look to when investigating a university or connecting to it. Now, the version differences between the different books actually relates to the stories of their origin and the direct response to both their original origin as how they came about and some relation to the fact of what temporis is to them and the fact that they have it, an interesting, unique discipline. So the fact is these two things oftentimes are what come to the different factors among the different versions of them that exist out there. So that's it for today. I introduced you to the two bloodlines of the Brujah. First, the Osebo, one of the Laibon bloodline of vampires, the overall bloodline of African vampires. One of their legacies, one of the almost connections to the clans of Europe and the like. They are interesting as they are very similar to their, effectively, the Brujah themselves. They share a weakness with them. But they oftentimes look to others rather than attempting to lead it all themselves. And without it, the beast calls them too much. Then I talked about the True Brujah, an ancient clan that the split occurred perhaps in those early days, perhaps sometimes later. It's really hard to say. But there's always this idealism of betrayal involved in it, of diablerization. The fact that they often say, Isles, the true founder of the Brujah, diablerized by Trolli, the one that the Brujah that we've talked about before call their antediluvian. These true Brujah are cold and detached, emotionless. They believe in mind and body and maximizing both of them. And they have existed throughout the ages. They dwindled to 10 in the Dark Ages, grew in numbers. But in modern nights, their allegiances have caused problems with them. Their allegiance to True Backhand, in fact, has caused great destruction to them when their headquarters was destroyed. They've survived, of course, but not in the same numbers that they had grown to. They have a interesting look at the rest of vampire society. That's almost a sickness that they perhaps can't cure all of it. But the more they cure of it, when Gehenna happens, when the end of the effective world happens, it'll be less. Because they would have eliminated just a little bit of that sickness, which is what really Gehenna is attempting to cure. The less of it is there, the less deadly it is, and the more they'll survive. They're an interesting bunch that definitely find a unique place within vampire society. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's just for the channel, the Empire of the Working. If you want to show some extra support, you could always check out my Patreon. Link description below. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.